Today I am here with Emily Shapiro. Emily is the proprietor and entrepreneur behind Discover Tall. Hello, Emily.
Hello, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So, transparency here, Emily and I actually known each other a very long time. We both grew up in Stamford, Connecticut. Her dad is an amazing human being and her mom as well. Her dad was my lawyer growing up as a kid, which was fantastic. Never got in trouble like that though, which was great. But Emily, welcome, and then I want to know everything about you. So obviously people here like thinking this is all about food and alcohol and cigars and everything like that, but I wanted to have a really badass woman on my podcast, and all I could think about was you.
Awesome.
So tell them your story.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
So, as Pat mentioned, grew up in Stamford, and that's how we know each other. And fast forward many years, we overlapped being in New York. Pat was a chef there, and I was working in commercial real estate. I've always focused on retail, and I was doing that for about 8 years, doing a lot of flagship work in New York.
Now was that had to have been hard, right? Commercial real estate work in New York City, that had to have been a little bit of a pain, no? I mean, like, were you focused on?
It was definitely a grind.
Yeah, right. Were you focused on a certain thing? Like, were you focused on restaurants? Were you focused on, or just everything as a whole?
So first I actually started doing tenant representation.
Okay.
So I was representing tenants on a national basis, the Sonys, L'Oreals, and
Nice.
the likes of the world, and we were doing national work. And then I moved over to a real estate investment trust. It was the largest landlord in Manhattan, SL
Wow.
Green. And we had a 2 million square foot retail portfolio to wrangle. And there I did a bunch of high street work, so a lot of Fifth Avenue, Times Square,
Nice.
Soho, Madison, etc. And our team ran really lean and got some really cool deals done. We had brought a Korean tenant line into Times Square. We did CoverGirl, we did Nike,
Wow.
we did Puma. There were a lot of really exciting deals that I worked on while I was at SL Green.
Now, were you always into real estate? Like, as a kid, were you always looking at that stuff? Like, how did you get into it?
So my uncle actually has a brokerage business in Connecticut.
Nice.
And I studied finance and entrepreneurship when I was at Indiana University. And when I graduated, it was something I was definitely interested in. So I met with a retailer, an owner, and a broker. And my career kind of organically evolved from there. But I love fashion, I love retail, I love shopping, and that's kind of what made me gravitate toward that sector of the business.
Nice. Awesome. So you're in New York City, you're crushing it, and then keep going.
Right, so then I moved over to Westfield when they had just been acquired, and we were building this international team. I was there for about a year working on a new business for direct-to-consumer type retailers. Think the Glossiers, Verishops of the world. And it was only a year in there when COVID happened.
Wow.
And everything kind of changed.
Was it that bad in New York when COVID hit?
Yeah.
It was, right?
Yeah.
Because listen, I'm going to tell you the truth. It was bad here for like 3 months, and then after that, I feel like there's something about the South that you can't keep them down. That everybody was just like, screw it, we're going out.
Right. Right. Well, we only stayed in New York for a month.
Okay.
And then we left and came down to see family in Atlanta. We actually had a trip planned to come see my in-laws, moved the flight up a little bit less than a week, and once we got down here, we just canceled our return flight.
That's awesome.
And decided to stay.
Did your parents want to kill you when you did that?
Well, no, because everybody was kind of camping out outside the city at that point.
Yeah.
So everybody was in wait and see mode. They were hosting my sister and her now fiance. And so I think everybody was very understanding that it was a fluid situation.
Yeah.
It wasn't until May that we actually decided to move out of our apartment, put our stuff into storage, and then August we started looking for houses in Atlanta.
Nice.
So it really was an interesting progression. My husband had been commuting to Chicago every week, Monday through Wednesday, for the past 3 years.
Oh my God.
And we were just happy to be in the same place. I parted ways with Westfield, and it was just kind of a good time to create this new beginning.
So did you know a lot? Obviously, your husband is from here.
Yes.
So you've been here a lot.
Right.
Okay, and then you knew that eventually you wanted to be here, or
Yeah.
did it just COVID just speed up the process a lot?
So we always thought we'd end up here eventually.
Okay.
My husband has lived in 5 different cities for his jobs,
Yeah.
so we never knew where we would end up. We actually almost moved to Minneapolis at
Oh,
the
wow.
beginning of last year.
Wow.
But yeah, we always figured Atlanta would be 10 to 15 years in the future, so
Yeah.
it definitely sped things up. But I'd always enjoyed visiting the city. I just kind of always felt like you get the best of both worlds here. You have your privacy and your space, but anytime you want amazing food, entertainment, etc., it's all within a stone's throw, 15-minute drive.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to find.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
agree, and especially with it being, like Italian food, Persian food with roomies, and it's kind of easy to find. There's a lot of it. I feel like Connecticut was 90% Italian for sure, and then you had your couple pop-up places here or there that were probably some of the better food as well. Like there was Fiesta, which I loved, which was like really good Peruvian food, and I feel like there was, but it was mostly Italian.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, living in Connecticut, you definitely have your spots. New York, you have a lot more variety. And being able to seek out those different restaurants and experiences was something that was definitely going to be important to us regardless of where we lived.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to have that here.
So what's the biggest thing as of right now that you miss from Connecticut and New York?
I mean, family
Yeah.
and
Other
friends.
than that. Other than that. I'll tell you mine.
What's yours?
Felici's.
That's really
I
funny.
miss Felici's. There was just something about that baked chicken that was like, oh my god. That and like the attitude that they had there was like they basically with their eyes told you to fuck off without actually having to tell you. I think I love that. So and it just had that like really old school Italian feel that I feel like is so hard to find now, especially in Atlanta. You can't find that.
Yeah. You know, my dad grew up working there.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's too funny.
Yeah.
That's too, you know how I remember my first memory of your dad is I came downstairs living in Victory Street in Stamford. I came downstairs and your dad is in my basement drinking wine with my dad, and it was just like
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and then I just remember that being like the first thing ever, and I must have been, God, 6. So I don't even think you were born yet. I don't know if Jessica was born yet. So I'm 37.
So no. Well,
No.
Jessica was born. I was not.
Okay, but it was the funniest thing ever. And then we had other friends. Danny Trudeau's parents were there, so his dad would come over. It was just the funniest thing ever. And then I remember like later on working at Bella Luna, and I seen your dad. I'm like, dude, I know you.
Yeah.
I was like, I know exactly who you are. It was just too funny.
I know.
So you come to Atlanta. So what is it that like? How did you know where you wanted to live? Like, so you came here. Did you stay with your in-laws for a little bit?
Yeah,
Okay.
we were living with my in-laws
Yep.
for 9 months.
Okay. I love it. That's great. You should.
So fortunately, they're really great people, and it was actually quite easy and enjoyable to spend all this time with them, especially since we had never lived in the same city before.
Yeah.
And Adam and I had been together for I think 5 years or so,
Wow.
but it was always like a weekend here and there, so it was really nice to be able to spend time with them. But yeah, when we started looking around Atlanta,
Like, what was important to you? Was it schools? Was it because knowing that eventually you wanted to have kids here? Like, what was it that like what directed you to a certain area?
So the truth is that my husband created a circle for me on Zillow and said,
I
you
love
can
it.
look here.
I love it. I love it.
Because I was kind of pulling out all sorts of houses from random neighborhoods, and he's like,
That's me.
He
100%.
just said, you have no idea what you're
Yeah.
looking at.
Yeah.
And he's right, I didn't.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to be like a short drive away from things.
Nice.
So he gravitated toward Buckhead, and good schools was definitely a consideration.
Yep.
Safety, that's something that you
Which-
have to think about. in
Which
Atlanta.
freaks me out
Yeah.
right now because like so because we kind of live in the same area. The thing that freaked me out the most was a couple weeks ago when
Yes.
that guy on West
running.
Wesley got shot.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because that night before, like I would say 5 hours before, because it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, I was leaving White Bull on my Vespa and took that way home. And since then, my wife's like, you're not allowed to take your Vespa to work anymore.
Yeah, it's
I'm
scary.
like, Jesus, man. I was like, I love my Vespa.
Yeah.
It's like the sickest thing ever. But yeah, it really scared the crap out of me. So that thing about like Atlanta right now, I think is the scariest part, right? Is you don't realize how bad it is until it comes to your backyard.
Right.
And I feel like, we're fortunate to live in a certain area where we don't think that's ever gonna happen. And it literally being down the road scared the crap out of me and definitely scared the crap out of my wife.
Yeah.
Like this is the first time ever where my wife came home that day and goes, you need to go buy a gun. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm I'm not doing it yet. I was like, if we have any
you
issues,
and I being from Connecticut,
yeah, I know.
you know, like we haven't
I
been able
know.
to like wrap our heads around it
I
yet.
know. And the thing about it too is like I always just envision it as like if anything ever gets bad enough, I just call my dad to come down. He'll bring the guns. We'll be fine. Because that guy's like, if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, I'm moving back to Connecticut because my dad's got it. He's got it covered. But so moving to Buckhead or moving to that area and then hearing about is it scaring you, especially now that you have a little one on the way? Does it scare you a little bit? Because it is with me. Like with Colin and Sophia, my kids, and living in that area and knowing that there is a side of Buckhead that's not realistically that great of an area, and it becoming so close. It scared me because we moved there thinking we'd get away from it a little bit because we were in
Right.
Tucker and it wasn't ever bad in Tucker, but we moved away thinking it was gonna get better, and now for me the thing is like everything I do is for my kids, right? My
Right.
kids and my wife. So now seeing this, I'm like, did we make the right move? And that's what kind of freaks me out a little bit. So do you kind of have the same feeling, or do you just like have enough faith in the world knowing that like everything's kind of just gonna be fine?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have to exercise more caution here
Yeah.
than I have anywhere I've ever lived.
Yeah. Even in New York.
Yeah.
Like I mean I walked down some shady streets in New York and never felt uncomfortable.
Right. I mean, yeah. So I think it depends on like the time of day, right?
Yeah.
But like, I think that we're definitely exercising more caution.
Yeah.
And I do hope that with change in
Agreed.
control, early next year, that hopefully, some of the security changes,
Yeah.
and that. I mean, I personally am for the city of Buckhead spinning off.
Yeah, it's a great saying.
Because I think that would be.
I think it needs to. I think for a little while it's kind of just been, it kind of has been running on its own anyway.
Right.
Right? I mean, I just feel like, why not just spin it off at this point? But then the thing is, like, where do you cut the line? Because realistically, we're Buckhead-ish, West Midtown. Right?
Well,
Or
there
Upper West
are
Side.
clear outlines.
Okay.
I mean, there are clear outlines
Okay.
already. But I mean, I do hope that happens.
Yeah,
and,
same.
hopefully we'll have some clarity on that in the next couple of years. So it'll be interesting to see how things evolve. But
Yeah.
I also understand families who don't necessarily want to be
Yeah.
in Atlanta proper at the moment.
Absolutely, agree. So you're in Atlanta, you moved to that side, your husband gave you the circle, you buy your house, and now what are you doing? Because you left commercial real estate, so now what?
Yeah, so last spring, now I've been considering starting my own thing. I've always had like this fire within me where
Yeah.
I really wanted to start something entrepreneurial on the side. I always figured it would be something that I would start while I was working, but it actually came to fruition in the opposite way where I had this time and could really pour all of my energy into creating something new.
Yep.
And for me, especially working in a mall environment, flagship type stuff in New York is really cool because it's always the retailer's absolute best concept.
Yep.
And they're always coming up with something new to wow their audience. I think though, when you see kind of the same concept over and over in malls, for me, retail started to lose its magic.
Absolutely. A while ago though.
Yeah, it started to lose its magic, and I didn't really. It was kind of sad because retail's always been something that I loved.
Yeah.
So, when COVID hit and so many businesses were affected, I wanted to focus on a subset of retail that wasn't necessarily having the right attention and support at the time.
Yep.
You have all these companies that are heavily funded, or legacy companies that would float their way through, and everybody would make it. But what about all of these brands that were budding, had yet to be discovered? Who's supporting them? How can I support local communities
Yep.
at this point where the world is so strange? So I started TALD, which stands for Things a Little Differently.
That's awesome.
And it was my way of focusing on a new kind of retail, focusing on bringing together artists and independent brands and putting together too a financial structure where they could profit more than they typically would in a wholesale relationship.
Okay.
So, there were a few different concepts going into what I wanted this platform to be. And I started with nothing but a pitch deck of what I thought the concept would be. I started working on it in early May, going through legal trademarks, etc.,
Yep.
just to get everything set up. And I soft launched in August, I want to say, with probably 20 to 25 brands. I launched across the US in October. Currently it's an e-commerce platform only.
That's awesome.
And I think I have 35 to 40 brands. But we focus on home decor, we focus on some fashion accessories, we focus on baby, a lot of gifting type baby heirloom products, and a little bit on wellness. I'd say we've really leaned into home because so many people were focusing inward. And as someone who loves real estate, I feel like I've definitely gravitated toward that category more.
Yep.
So, you know, it was really interesting connecting with all of these different artists and bringing them this way to raise their visibility in good company. You know, I would say that when you find an artist you like, you focus on their work.
Of course.
But to be able to have this place where you can go and discover other like-minded artists whose work you might also like was something that was really appealing to them, and I think has been really appealing to our audience as well.
So when you started this company and you said you went to college for entrepreneurship, was it like, hey, I'm going to school and I'm going to use everything I learned there to do it, or was it like, was there a lot of things that you didn't learn in school that you kind of had to learn on your own? So like, perfect example for me, right? So like in culinary school, I didn't learn any of this.
Right.
You know, you learn how to chop a knife, which I already did at Bella Luna. You learned how to do this, I already did at Bella Luna. So to me, I thought culinary school was just a big waste of time. So I did it so that my dad would feel proud, and I gave him a piece of paper, and he was just like, yeah, great, you went to college, which I didn't. I mean, it was culinary school. And then, like, I don't think I would be as successful as I am today if I didn't get, like, that education from Corey and Angelo at Bella Luna, where, like, they taught me, like, how to charge for certain things. And, like, you know, your lights cost money, this costs money, and, like, you know, did you feel like there was a lot you still could have learned from school to maybe kind of gotten you a little bit more prepared, or did you learn most of it just kind of trial and error?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that entrepreneurship is something that comes from within.
Yeah.
I think you can't necessarily teach it. You're either going to be an entrepreneurship or you're an entrepreneur or you're not.
Yeah.
So I would say I've learned by doing, and yeah, there are definitely positions I've held where it prepared me in the sense that if I didn't know how to do something, my boss would just say, figure it out.
Yeah.
And I kind of brought that same mentality to myself. I mean, I designed my own website.
Awesome.
I, you know, learned so much on the graphic side of things. I taught myself so much on the social, SEO, et cetera side of things. Those
Yep.
are not things I'd ever focus on. I'm doing my own PR. And so I definitely taught myself a whole different type of skill set than I had ever had to use. But I think that running lean is something that I've always preferred because you get so much more visibility into different facets of a business.
Yep.
And so it's been an invaluable experience, and I've really enjoyed it along the way.
That's awesome. Did you, as growing up as a kid, did you always have like entrepreneurship like in your blood? So, like for me, like I would knock on everybody's door and like I cut your grass for $2, and then from that it was like I think I had like the first Monopoly lemonade stand in the west side of Stanford. Like I had 7 of them, and I would just go and
That's
collect money from all my boys, and then it went from that to like buying and selling baseball cards. And then, you know, kind of went dormant a little bit. Kind of did the baseball card things in high school a little bit, and then went dormant because then you become interested in girls and, you know, all that stuff. And then for me, it picked back up, obviously, like working for Bella Luna. So you feel like you've always had it, or did it really kick off like in your like the last couple years?
Yeah, I think I've always had it. I mean, I don't know how excited people get to like sell Girl Scout cookies and newspaper
I love it.
and scholastic books, and I mean I did junior achievement in high school and I really enjoyed that. I feel like I always kind of leaned into any opportunity to work, whether it be any of those things or like even babysitting. So I would always lean into these opportunities, and I mean I think the fact that I decided to choose that as one of my majors was it's just kind of funny to
which
be
is awesome.
entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
But it's something that I was always interested in and wanted to know more about. I mean, it was really fun. I mean, when you major in entrepreneurship, you are writing business plans, running business cases, doing a lot of, you know, public speaking and different things like that. So it was just something that was really enjoyable to balance out the finance, which I didn't enjoy so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're in Atlanta. You start this company. How did it go in the beginning? Like, was it slow and steady? Did it take off right away? Because I remember I believe I saw it in a magazine.
Yeah,
Okay.
we actually were in Atlanta Magazine's
Nice.
Best of Atlanta issue for the best new online retailer
Wow.
in December, which was awesome because that was only 2 months after we launched.
It's amazing.
So to gain that recognition was something that we were really proud of. But you know, at first for the soft launch, friends and family were super supportive. Word of mouth was great. When October came around, you know, it was exciting because the site was locked before that. So
Yep.
when October came around, it was super exciting to really grow our reach a lot through socials. And I started connecting with interior designers.
Okay.
So my mother-in-law is an interior designer, and she was excited about what I was working on because the products were so unique, and so many people want unique pieces for their homes.
Sure.
Whether it's just for decoration purposes, whether they're a collector and they, you know, want to bring new artists into their home. There were so many, you know, different avenues that you could go in with interior designers. So I actually linked up with an interior designer named Emily Del Bello. We have some mutual friends. She's really beautiful work. She's a modern interior designer based in New York City. And I started working with her on some of her projects.
Nice.
And between working with her and other interior designers and starting working on some influencer packages that are supportive of small businesses,
Yep.
it really started to turn from family and friends into a much wider demographic of people across the United States.
Wow.
So that's really, I would say that's really how things started to grow and how we're continuing to grow things, because we want things to be organic, right? You want people to discover your company and your products from other people who appreciate what you're doing,
Yep.
as opposed to, you know, paid ads. I don't think is something that is necessarily right for this business.
Yep.
So we've really just kind of followed that path, and it's gone well. I've always wanted to grow Tald organically because it's something that I want to have for many years to come. Whether this is my sole focus and I decide to open stores, or whether I decide to go back into commercial real estate and I want to run this in the background.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's gone really well. I mean, I don't expect to have, you know, 0 to 200 type growth.
Yeah, of course.
It's more of just continuing to connect with people in a meaningful way and being able to provide a thoughtful creation that will attract more people.
That's amazing. So, you know, the one thing you said that like really is a main focus for me is when you talk about, you know, you start this e-commerce, and then instead of just doing 100% online sales, you're like, well, let me figure out a way to kind of get this going even quicker, and let me reach out to people. So I think a lot of times like people don't realize that, right? Like you start these e-commerce stores. Like a buddy of mine has his t-shirt company. Starts this online t-shirt company, puts like, you know, some writing on it, and then just thinks people are going to show up and just buy his stuff. I was like, dude, send your shirts to 75 different rappers and get them to wear it, or put it in like, you know, I don't know, go to a restaurant and be like, hey, I need all of your staff to wear this shirt for today. I'll pay you $20 a person or something. Just creating a different avenue, which I respect more than anything, because I think that's fantastic that you thought that way. So now, what is the next step for Tald? Like, do you see it right now as just doing what you're doing, or do you see it as hiring people to help you run it? Because like, how does it work? So like, I put an order in and then you ship to me, or do they ship to me directly?
So my artists ship to you directly.
Okay.
The brand ships to you directly. You know, what I wanted to do was make it so that they could run their business the same way they already are. I wanted to make it very seamless for them. So basically, you have a system in place where you put your order in, it goes to their portal, and then they send directly to you. Some of the pieces are made to order,
Wow.
and some of the pieces, you know, are ready to go. We kind of detail that across the website. And, you know, for now, we're definitely going to continue to grow our e-commerce and hopefully, you know, have some more pieces on hand for interior designers who need pieces immediately.
Yep.
But I would say down the road, I'm definitely interested in opening a
That's
store
awesome.
in Atlanta.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Do you do you feel like starting this company was the hardest thing you've done in your life so far?
I would say that it definitely brought to light the rumors I'd always heard about entrepreneurship being difficult. you know, you do expect to kind of have this instant
Of course.
success, and there's a lot of worry at the beginning, but it's so true when people say that building a business takes time, and
Yeah.
that's something that you kind of have to remind yourself throughout.
Patience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's definitely made me a more patient person, especially since I do want to grow it organically,
Yeah.
as opposed to just, you know, taking on investment, etc.
Yeah.
So I would say it's definitely the most rewarding.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, entrepreneurship is definitely not an easy road, and you know, you do see these companies that go from zero to unicorn, but
Yeah.
there's certainly a level of challenge from zero to, you know, the first steps of being successful.
For sure. Now, are you at a place now where you have artists reaching out to you, or are you continuously reaching out to other people?
So we do have certain artists that reach out to us. I'd say that what ends up being most successful is if it's a referral from an existing artist of
Okay.
ours who's enjoyed working with us. But I think that a lot of it for me is still the outreach, because I'm still digging for the right brands to be part of our platform.
Nice.
And it could be someone who has less than 1,000 followers on Instagram that
Yeah.
I find and reach out to, and I think that's really where I find the niche pieces
Yeah.
that our audience is really gravitating toward.
Where are you now on social media? Are you on every platform? Where can they find you if they want to come and buy something right now?
So on Instagram, we're at DiscoverTald.
Okay.
And then we have a Pinterest, which a lot of people have gravitated toward. Pinterest has been a really interesting platform because it's a lot less cluttered than Facebook. We do have Facebook,
Yeah, of course.
but you know, Facebook's kind of a replica of Instagram because
Yeah.
they're the same company. But Pinterest has also been great because that's where you go look for inspiration.
Yeah.
And so if someone is redoing their living room, or you know, looking for jewelry or interesting candles, we have, you know, these all natural hand poured beeswax candles from upstate New York. You know, these are the things that people are finding on Pinterest. If they're looking for decorations for their nurseries, we have these non-toxic hand painted baby blocks that are, you know, a more modern style. And so I would say that there's a lot of variety coming from Pinterest. We haven't yet delved necessarily into YouTube. We do more of our streaming on Instagram because that's where a lot of our audience is.
Yep.
But yeah, our socials are pretty straightforward, and again, like pretty organic content.
Have you done TikTok?
So I haven't done TikTok yet.
Okay.
Have you?
So we're doing some with the restaurants right now. I think TikTok's fun because like I literally die laughing when I watch TikTok. There is funny stuff on TikTok, and I'm always telling Amelia that I'm like, listen, I think we should do this, but like, you know, have like our spin on it and everything like that. I think TikTok's definitely here to stay. I don't think it's going anywhere, and I feel like it's getting bigger every day. Like you have like major companies either doing paid advertisement or just doing organic stuff right now, and it's crazy to me. Like if you asked me a year ago because I remember having TikTok a year ago, if this was going to be a big thing, I'd be like, absolutely not. Without a doubt, somebody's going to shut this system down. Because remember, in the beginning, it was 14-year-old girls basically
Right.
dancing, and it just wasn't okay. And
Yeah.
now it's everybody's on
And you
it.
would have thought it was gonna end up like that other short video platform.
Of course, like Vimeo or Vine or
Vine,
something. Yeah, those
Vine,
things
yeah.
like that. I thought they'd be over in
Yeah.
a day. But I thought it was interesting, and now especially because like we're diving into it, and I'm doing a couple things with like doing some pasta videos and stuff like that on it. I'm like, man, I wonder if you're gonna dive into the TikTok side of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think that our clientele is definitely mid-20s and upward, and because we have a more elevated price point, I'm not sure how people on TikTok would exactly take to that.
Yeah.
I've heard from stories from fellow business owners
Yeah.
who, you know, have these 12-year-olds on TikTok who
Oh,
are
yeah.
trolling them.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
So it's pretty funny. I think it's interesting. I think, you know, if I were to open a store, I'd do a lot more video content.
Yep.
So it's definitely a consideration down the line, but today I have not yet touched TikTok.
That's funny. You should give it a shot. I'd be curious on how it comes out.
I'd be curious
yeah.
too.
So, how did you? Because we never actually had the story about how you figured out that I was in Atlanta. So
Yeah. So My in-laws were hosting the High Museum Wine Dinner. It was canceled last year.
Yep.
And it was coming up, and I asked them, I said, "Oh, are you still working with the same chef as last year?" And they said, "No, it's changed. We have the chef from White Bowl coming in." So I pulled up the White Bowl website. I'm scrolling on my phone, just sitting in the living room. It said, "Chef Pat Pasquarella." I was like, "Pat Pasquarella?" I was like, "No way." And, you know, I had to do a double take, just like trying to figure out if it was really you.
Yeah.
So I had no idea that you were in Atlanta. And, you know, I reached out to my dad. I was like, "Dad, is Pat in Atlanta?" And, you know, all of a sudden, like, looking into this whole flurry of you being in Atlanta, and I just, like, could not believe my eyes, and I was so excited. I was like, that is such a crazy,
It really is crazy.
small world connection. I reached out to you immediately.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I still can't believe it.
Yeah, it's too funny.
How that all, you know, came together.
Yeah, that dinner was a lot of fun though.
I heard.
You know what's funny thing is I left you focaccia.
Oh, I know, they ate it.
Yeah, and they ate. I was like, guys, I go, please don't eat this. I told Emily I was gonna leave her some. Here it is. I'm gonna leave it out and then just let her know. Just throw it in the oven for like 5 minutes. Like, yeah, of course, we got it.
Yeah.
And then the next time I saw you was like 3 weeks later, and I was like, how's the focaccia? You're like, what focaccia? And I was like,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
no.
they were eating dinner one night and they sent a picture of something and I saw the focaccia on the table. I know that it was.
Well, when we, because that focaccia is gonna be at Bastone, so when we open, you'll get that.
Oh, amazing.
I'll invite you for the opening, so you'll get the first one.
I'm
There you go,
pumped.
because you deserve to have that.
Only have been waiting for it for a year.
So that was in like December, right? Something like that. We did that event. It was it this year? I don't think so. Oh yeah, it was. It was like in March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think people had already started getting vaccinated.
Yeah. It was March. That's right.
Yeah.
And then I had to cancel on your in-laws like a few
I know,
weeks
we
back
were
because we were
gonna
understaffed.
barbecue.
But we're gonna do it again very soon. I promise.
Yeah.
Very, very soon. So I'm gonna wrap this up, but I always have Spitfire questions for everybody. All right. So
Ooh.
it's basically real quick. I ask you one or the other, and then you respond.
Okay.
All right. So let's start with Batman or Iron Man.
Batman.
Wow. So you're the only DC so far that I've asked these questions because I'll ask them DC or Marvel, and it's normally Marvel. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Same, 100%. Is it killing you right now? Not being able to have some?
I drink it every day.
You good for you. You should. So funny story about that. So my aunt. So you met my cousin Pat. That he was at the dinner that night,
Yes.
right? So his nickname, and I'm sorry that I'm doing this to him on the podcast. His nickname his whole life was Poopy, right? And the reason why is because when he was born, he was dark, like Native American Indian dark, and the word for baby in Native American was papoose. And I didn't know how to say that shit because I was 8, so I was just like, Poopy it is. So he named Poopy. So the doctor said the reason why he was so dark was because my aunt drank coffee all the time.
Really?
Yeah, he's not dark now. He's
That's so interesting.
Yeah, he's so white now because he never sees the sun.
That's super interesting.
But that's funny. Flowers or chocolates?
Flowers.
This is good. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
All right. Just because we're in Atlanta, or are you really a Pepsi girl? Because we're from the north.
No, Coke tastes better.
Yeah, it does. All right, and then the last one: pasta or pizza?
How are you expecting to answer that? I'm
It always
Italian.
gets them. If you had a dish of pasta in front of you, or I was gonna bring you pizza, which one would you go to first? Like, what's your first bite, initial all time?
Pasta.
Yeah, same. I love pizza. Don't get me wrong. And like, my son is the pizza guy, and my daughter is the pasta girl. But it's I definitely aim towards pasta.
Nothing better than a good bowl of pasta.
I know. Well, thank you so much for coming, Emily.
Thanks for having
It's so
me.
good having you in Atlanta. It's amazing.
Yeah, this is
And
great.
let's do the barbecue very soon.
We have to.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stop. Look at that. I'm getting good at this.
There you go.
Hit start and stop. Thank you so much.
fun.
Absolutely. It's good. Thank you, and we really will do barbecue very soon.
Yeah, we have to.
You have 8 weeks